Welcome, Chief Minister. Lovely to have you here. Our session is titled Beyond the Valley, the Role of Kashmir in Great Power Politics. But let me start with a sense of irony, which is Kashmir, in a sense, still seen as a geopolitical story at all? Or has that become an outdated view of the state?
Well, considering the opening of this huddle had a mention of the circumstances that prevailed on your last huddle, and those circumstances were born out of what happened in Jammu and Kashmir. I was one of those participants who had to drop out at the last moment because of what was happening. Jammu and Kashmir is an important part of the geopolitical story of India. You can't ignore that reality. Yes, there are times when we occupy more headline space than others. Last year was one of those years. This year, touch wood, so far things are quiet, and I'd rather they stay that way than what we saw last year.
Absolutely. And drilling down a bit more into Kashmir's position, as it were, India-Pakistan relations obviously took a downturn when the events of last year happened. How do you see that evolving, and Kashmir's role particularly as a key player in that relationship?
Well, I wouldn't call us a key player because neither side talks to us about talking to each other. But we are, for want of a better phrase, the elephant in the room. The whole disagreement largely stems from the status of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan wants us. We are a part of India. We chose to be a part of India. That was something they couldn't accept, are still unable to accept. And that has shadowed our relationship ever since 1947. Yes, I mean, we don't get to determine how the dialogue goes, but we are the actual reason why our two countries haven't been able to see eye to eye with each other.
So, in that sense, after Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor, and questions that linger perhaps on security, you talked about, Pakistan wanted this part of the country. What keeps you awake at night in terms of how this could evolve?
If I had to list what keeps me awake, I would take up the entire 2 days of your huddle and probably next year's huddle as well. Let's just say it's a very long list. Part of it is what happens internationally. Clearly, what's happening in and around Iran is a matter of concern because we have a large expat population, particularly of students who study in Iran. But then also what keeps me awake is the fact that we are a union territory when we didn't deserve to be one. We are the most unfortunate part of this country because everybody else that was a union territory went on to become a state. We were a state that went on to become a union territory with no explanation as to why it happened to us and no finite date as to when that situation will be reversed. So the list of things that keep me awake, as I said, is long and complex.
So let me provoke you a bit on that in the sense of saying you spoke out strongly against the revocation of certain clauses of Article 370. What has history proved? Were you right? Did things take a different turn? Was there chaos, or has there been development, or is it a mixed picture?
Look, Article 370 was never a cause of any lack of development in Jammu and Kashmir. And nor has the revocation of Article 370 or its watering down suddenly resulted in this massive development. Development has continued. If anything, Jammu and Kashmir has suffered on account of the 35 years of violence. People will not invest money in a part of the country that they deem to be unsafe. So if you set aside the geographical differences, problems that we have, the lack of a strong resource base, the fact that Jammu and Kashmir was perceived as an unsafe place to visit or an unsafe place to do work is what we paid a price for, not for Article 370. That was the stick that was used to beat us. That was the sort of the propaganda that was used, that you can't have two different systems in the same country. And only talking about J&K, forgetting that you have two different systems in other parts of the country as well. All of us sitting here, none of us can go buy land in Lakshadweep. There are large parts of the northeast of this country where we can't buy land. There are parts of this country that we can't visit without a permit. But none of this is talked about. The only thing that was talked about was Jammu and Kashmir and the fact that you can't buy land there. And that was the stick that was used to beat us with. Lack of development was not a factor then, and it's not a factor now as far as 370 is concerned. It was a political, it was part of the politics of the BJP, and we've had to live with its after effects.
Absolutely, I echo what you say. For example, we are from Tamil Nadu, some of us, and Karnataka and elsewhere in the south. We have had our own questions about state autonomy, which is different but related in the sense we want to define some part of our own rights and welfare. In Kashmir, do you feel that that conversation has taken on a different tenor, in the sense it is no longer about you can wait? We talked about this at breakfast. You need this now. You need statehood now. What would statehood bring? Would that improve the situation for you on the ground?
Look, I mean, statehood is something that was promised to us. It was a commitment. All of us remember that in the Supreme Court, in the Parliament, in various public forums, Government of India said that it is a three-stage process, the normalization of Jammu and Kashmir. Delimitation will be followed by elections. Elections will be followed by statehood. We had the delimitation. Good, bad, or ugly, we dealt with it. We had elections in which the people of Jammu and Kashmir participated in record numbers. And then the third step, which is statehood, is nowhere to be seen. And nobody is able to explain to us as to why not. We are told that it will be at the appropriate time, which is fine. I'm ready to listen to that, provided somebody can tell me how I'm supposed to gauge what the appropriate time is. What is the yardstick by which I will measure an appropriate time? Is it the levels of violence in Jammu and Kashmir? Because if it is, that's unfair on me because I'm not responsible for security. Government of India is directly responsible for security and law and order in Jammu and Kashmir through the office of the Lieutenant Governor. So essentially then you're holding my statehood to ransom over something that I don't get to control. Okay? Is it the international situation with Pakistan? Again, something I don't get to control. So my question to the Government of India always is that if you say statehood to J&K at the appropriate time, can you please define the yardstick you are using to measure that appropriate time? So I have a goal to reach. You're part of a newspaper. At the end of the day, you know what your goal is, whether it is circulation, whether it is eyeballs for your digital media, you know what your targets are. My target is to achieve statehood, yet I have no idea what goals I have to achieve to reach that point. And therefore, obviously, this becomes a matter of concern. And what will change? Governance will change. At the end of the day, you have an elected government with more than one hand tied behind its back. Now, I understand that, and again, you will have seen this, statehood for states that are opposition ruled is very different than statehood for states that are BJP ruled. The role of Raj Bhavan, now Lok Bhavan, is very different when it's an elected government versus a BJP government. But even then, it's better to be a state with an interfering Lok Bhavan than to be a union territory with an even more sort of empowered Lok Bhavan. And that's what we're trying to correct. I'm Chief Minister. And you've got other chief ministers who will be participating here. Ask them, how would they feel being chief minister without getting to choose who their chief secretary is, without getting to choose who their director general of police is, without getting to choose who their finance secretary is? What sort of government is that?
All fair questions. One interesting fact that you mentioned jumped out at me, which is that people came out in strong numbers in that election and made their voices heard. There was a clear surge in that sense. Do you feel that there's something that the people are trying to express? What is the mood and what is their sense, you as their leader would know?
Well, I think the people have, in successive events, put their point of view across, that they want to be participants in the development and the progress that this country is making. They want to see their day-to-day concerns addressed. They do not support violence. Again, coming back to the situation that we had last year, for the first time in 35 years of violence in Jammu and Kashmir, the people of J&K came out and overwhelmingly made their voices heard against terror, against the deaths of innocent people. They came out, whether it was to light candles, to march, to protest silently, or to even speak out and say, this is not in our name. Similarly, when they come out in elections, it was because they wanted the promises made by the government of India to be kept. So, in that respect, there is very little that is different between the electorate of Jammu and Kashmir and the electorate in the rest of the country. They want to see jobs for their children. They want to see better health care. They want to see a government that is accountable and a government that is able to deliver. And in that respect, unfortunately, as I said, you've given us a system of governance where 1.5 hands end up being tied behind our backs.
Fair point. And I'm going to ask you to project into the future now. What, in your view, is the single biggest policy mistake that India could make in Kashmir over the next decade?
Well, you've already made it. You've already made it. You made it in 2019. And unfortunately, you're continuing that mistake by denying the people of Jammu and Kashmir what is rightfully theirs, statehood. Look at what's happened in Ladakh. You have essentially taken a part of the country that celebrated what they got in 2019. Vociferously, the people of Ladakh came out and said, thank you very much. You have freed us of the clutches of Kashmiri hegemony. You have given us our freedom, so to speak. I mean, look at the level of buyer's remorse that the people of Ladakh today, large numbers of them are saying, look, we were better off actually where we were in 2019. God forbid you're going to actually make a bigger mistake than the one you've made so far. We took our eye off the ball. Look at what happened to us in Pahalgam last year. We were complacent. We became complacent about the security situation. We thought that the dark days of militancy where innocent people would be killed are far behind us and we won't see them again. And we did see them last year. So I believe that our worst mistakes, I hope that our worst mistakes are actually behind us. Because if we're going to make bigger mistakes than the one we've already made, then God help us.
What do you see? Let's try and look at what could be a positive scenario for the state going forward for the next 10 years. What policies would resolve those issues that you've been talking about for the last week?
First and foremost, give us our statehood back. Give us what is rightfully ours. Empower us back as a state, and then we'll go forward from there. I'm not going to ask for anything more at this point in time. What you do with Pakistan is a different matter. Of course, it impacts us. It impacts us in our day-to-day lives, in our security environment. It impacts us in how we're able to use our rivers, how much water we're able to use. But I'm happy to discuss all that with Government of India after that. The single biggest policy thing that I want now is for them to keep their promise. As we were told publicly when the train started from Jammu to Srinagar, when I reminded the Prime Minister about statehood, he said, this is not just any promise. This is Modi ka wada, Modi's promise. All we're asking is that you keep that promise and keep it now so that the people can see that that promise has been kept. Everything else we'll talk about afterwards.
So on those everything else matters, there were a couple of questions raised earlier. One in terms of with 370 no longer being what it was, is there concern about land purchase, for example, people moving in, Kashmiris moving out, and at the same time, how will a state of Kashmir deal with the border in a different manner? How will you balance human rights with terrorism and other concerns? Just give us your vision.
Well, I'm assuming that the current trend of reducing violence will continue. And therefore, problems with relation to human rights will be less of an issue because security forces will have less contact and less conflict within Jammu and Kashmir. The border is not the responsibility of any elected government. It isn't in Gujarat, it isn't in Rajasthan, it isn't in Punjab, and it won't be in Jammu and Kashmir either, whether we're a state or a union territory. It's like your coast. The coastline and protecting the coastline is not the responsibility of the government of Tamil Nadu. It's essentially the responsibility of the government of India. So the border will continue to be their responsibility. We'll support them as we have done from 1947 onwards. So that's not a matter of concern either. it'll make delivery of services, it'll make governance better, it'll make governance more accountable. It'll give me, I'm not using the absence of statehood as an excuse. Don't for a moment confuse what I'm saying with some sort of excuse making that I'm not able to do anything because we're not a state. That's not the line I'm taking. I'm just saying that governance and delivery will be better when you give us what you've promised us.
Fair enough. Thank you. So you entered Parliament at 28, became one of India's youngest ministers, and you have experienced electoral victory, defeat, detention, constitutional upheaval, of course, and political return. Looking back, what have these experiences taught you about the limits of power and the resilience of democracy even amongst those limits?
Well, I've actually been seeing this since my teenage years. I saw what happened to my father's government in '84 when the office of the governor was used to encourage defections and to bring his government down. So I've seen the ups and downs of power and power politics from a very young age. And therefore, I'd like to believe and also the fact that I spent 8 years in boarding school and 3 years in college very far from home has given me, I think, the ability to remain a lot more grounded than I otherwise should be. Power is a very fleeting thing. It's here today, gone tomorrow. I've always told my colleagues that we are perhaps the most glorified daily wagers in the country. Just because I'm in this office today is no guarantee that I'll be in this office tomorrow. And therefore, I take the trappings of this office with a very large pinch of salt. And I think that's a lesson all of us in elected office should do. Some of us believe that we are in office for life. That's not the case. And the sooner we come to terms with that, the better. But I was actually counting how long I've been doing this. Year after next, I'll have been an active politician for 30 years. 30 years is a very long time to be doing this. And, when I started out, and particularly when I was a minister with Vajpayee Saab, I always used to believe that, this whole concept that with age you become more wise is a very misplaced one, and that we youngsters also know a lot. And that age doesn't actually bring you very much except for creaking bones, sore joints, and a lot less hair that's a lot whiter than it used to be. Over time, and now with almost 30 years under my belt, let me just say that was really the foolishness of youth, and that age does give you a lot more sort of understanding of situations, of how you deal with things. I am definitely not the person I was when I entered Parliament at the ripe old age of 28. And therefore, age and experience are definitely something that should never be scoffed at, and which is something I was very guilty of in the early part.
Thank you for that thoughtful note. Before we wrap up, just a last question. You are from Kashmir and you're sitting here in South India, and we're all asking questions about federalism and pluralism and how this country works. Leave us with one message that you have that brings to bear your own experiences.
Well, actually, I'm not going to talk about pluralism or governance or anything. I'm just going to ask you to come and visit Kashmir.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good,
it.
Sir.
Come and visit. We don't get enough people from south of the Vindhyas. It's something I've been desperately trying to correct. And in fact, conversation that I had with our friend, the moderator, earlier before I came in here, was about how we are trying to encourage more people from this part of the country to visit us. I know you've got beautiful hill stations. My grandfather actually lived in one for a very long time, against his wishes, but he did enjoy his stay there. I'm actually hoping that more of you will come and visit us up north and enjoy a bit of our hospitality as well. So perhaps that's the thought I'll put here and leave the federalism and all for the experts to discuss after this.
You did say something interesting about movies, if you want to share.
Yes, I did. tourism follows movies. It's clear. I mean, look at how many tourists go to Switzerland thanks to Yash Chopra. I mean, as I was telling you, Yash Chopra has done more for tourism in Switzerland than the Swiss government could ever do. So similarly, we are hoping to encourage more and more film crews from the southern parts of the country to come and film in Jammu and Kashmir, particularly in the valley. There have been movies from the south that have been based out of J&K, particularly Roja, many, many years ago. Unfortunately, that movie was made at a time when filming in Kashmir was actually not safe. And if I'm not wrong, they didn't film in Kashmir at all. While the story was based out of Kashmir, I think they filmed in Himachal or somewhere else. So now that things are so much better, we're hoping that more film crews from here, because you guys have better budgets, your movies have definitely better budgets, and these days your movies seem to do better than Bollywood movies as well. So if we can encourage some of you to come there, nothing like it, that's what we'll do.
Lovely. Thank you.